Hello everyone, I'm Juliana Funaro, a Brazilian producer and executive producer, and also the international director of Mais Mulheres, which is the women's collective in Brazil. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today with these incredible women. And so it's really important to be here at Punto Género in Ventana SUR. So I'd like to first of all to thank Bernardo Bejerre, Franco, and Maria to having us here. And we're going to be exchanging some experiences with these two women. I'm a little bit nervous because we should have two more women here. And Fanny from 50-50, Collective 50-50, it's 50-50 collective, couldn't make it because she got COVID, unfortunately. Yes, we still haven't COVID. and Maya couldn't make it because she had another problem. But anyways, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be amazing, this round table, because these two women have so much to share. They came from so far, and it's the first time that we have the opportunity to be sharing with Asia. We never had Asian women with us. So we have, I'm sorry, we have here with us Sang Moon, the programmer of Jeonju International Film Festival, and Hashmi Lamba, who is a producer and India Council lead of the Gina Davis Institute of Gender and Media. So we are very, very happy to be here. I'd like to thank you as well, thank Spcine as well, the supporters. And so let's start. Mais Mulheres is a collective of women from the Brazilian audiovisual sector founded in 2019. We are a group of around 100 women who lead guilds, festivals, and representative associations within the sector. Our goal is to increase the participation of women in leadership positions, such as directing, producing, and a screenwriter. Over the past year, we have gathered data on women's participation in the sector, and the numbers are much lower than our representation in society. We constitute 50% of the population, but when we look at the numbers in our market, according to the Brazilian Film Agency, from 2018 to 2021, women were 17% of screenwriter, 19% in directing position, and about 40% in production. We aim to increase these numbers and achieve gender equality in the sector. So we are here today to understand more of women participation in each country here represented. And to start, I'm going to ask you, Sungmoon. You know, I have recently returned from South Korea and had the opportunity to share experiences and learn a lot from local producers and local TV channels. One thing they mentioned is that significant investment in the industry happened after the producers proved to the government how important are and strategic our market is. Can you tell us a bit about women's participation in the Korean film industry from your perspective? And is there any difference like in Brazil, between the number of women in production and the creative rules? I mean, like directing, screenwriter.
Yes. Hi. Good morning. Thank you for coming, even the rainy seasons at the moment. And I'm really happy to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me and talk with two amazing different countries, women professionals in industry. I'm happy to share my experience. I'm sure everybody knows South Korea at the moment, because it's so hot at the moment in audiovisual, in terms of the audiovisual context. But for general information, Korea, we have the population, I guess, we have more or less over 50 million. It's really similar to Argentinian, but we have 28 times smaller than Argentinian territory. So it's a really tiny country, but with a lot of people living there. And last year in Korea, we released commercially 703 films. And we don't know how many women directors made or participated in that like commercial release in that area, because in Korean Film Council, one of the government figure, like Inca here, they don't collect the information. They don't research the information for how many women directors and producers working in this industry at the moment. So I can say exact numbers, but last year and this year I was really curious, so I start to like pointed how many women directors in the like released industry, and there were 12. So out of 703, and I don't want to, obviously I quote, it's not official number, I just how they say count. So I could lost misinformation, but and then I can't believe the situation, so I searched for TV industry and also the series platform, and then I found in the platform, including 12 numbers of the female director in film industry, there were 120. But again, I would like to say it is not official number, just my counting. So, and then I thought around 120 people as a director and screenwriter in film industry and platform, not TV industry, just platform and film. And how much percentage would be? I can't believe that. Like, I thought it's a lot, because there are so many hit dramas, hit series directed by women and like screenplay by women, and then I couldn't believe that small number we have in industry. And then I searched a little bit more about television industry, and there is, according to KBS, the Korean national broadcaster, that's the proper official number. Over 53% of the lead character, female character, showed in drama in 2021, and obviously they are like getting increasing. But 2018, there were 94.6% of the TV screenwriter are women. So mainly, I can say that TV industry almost like dominated by women writers, but cinema industry we have a less like women directors or writers. This I can say, even though like my numbers may be not exactly correct. And about that, like I thought during my research, I thought, how come we don't have official numbers? And I called my ex-colleagues in Korean Film Council, and they said, we did research in 3 years as a project, like an event project. But then after that, from last year, they don't research anymore. So I complained officially to my colleague, not officially to the Korean Film Council. But that's the basic situation at the moment. But then is maybe, since you asked me about my personal perspective, I can say officially out of the South Korea, people can see that Korea at the moment, like there are huge investment, lots of series and dramas, films coming out. But then, how come we don't have that many like executives, someone who decide investment or produce? Are not many women, more like men. And then I thought, how come? I met lots of women professionals. How come this number came out? And then I thought about where I work. I work in Jeonju International Film Festival. It's our second biggest film festival in South Korea. We have, before pandemic, we have 85,000 audiences. And last year we had 73,000 audience. So even though a little bit reduced, but we still maintain our main core audiences, and which is like mixed with the really young university student cinephiles and also local senior citizens as well. And we usually have screenings, projections, 83% sold out during whole festival. So basically we have a lot of people to come to watch film. But then what kind of films we show is not commercial films actually. More, I can say more like Bafisi or Estado Alterno in Mar del Plata. So it's more artistically like engaged and more experimental films we are introduced. And then they're almost sold out. And then I counted how many women directors in the competition. And I found last 3 years we have an average 7 women directors in Korean competition or 8 women directors. So over 70 is huge. So I thought maybe at the moment the number of the writers or directors that official institute researched and announced could be a little bit less number, but in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, the number we're gonna grow and increase, and we're gonna have more contents or films directed by women, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. I could never imagine the numbers. Yeah. So, as women, we all face the same challenges. It's difficult to get numbers and get data, I believe, everywhere. And talking about that, as we all know, the importance of data for making change and influencing policies, we also know that India has conducted some interesting research in our industry. Hashmi, please, could you tell us about these researches?
Yeah, so once again, thank you for having me here. It's halfway across the globe, but it's very exciting to be here. And what I'm thrilled to see is a lot of women. So thank you for coming. Gives us a lot of hope. And I think we have the same problems. We have, shared values, shared problems. But yes, we are kind of, if you know, India is known for the computer IT industry, right? Software. So we are number driven. But personally, as you saw, my background is a bit confusing because I've been all over the world and I'm a producer, director. And how I got inspired to be the India Council lead of the Gina Davis Institute. So because our panel says context, so I'm just giving you a bit of the context about that. Please. I was very, I always say that the mantra that Gina Davis came up with when she had her daughter, she's made that speech in her Oscar speech as well, that she didn't see enough women role models on screen. And that's when she realized that we need to have data. Because you can go to a studio and they will say, of course it's changing, we made 5 films about women, or look at this. So, and she's come up with a brilliant line, which I think we all should see it, because she says, if she can see it, she can be it. So, and now with, accepting more genders, they say, if they can see it, they can be it. And that is on screen and off screen. And in 2015, I was asked to be the festival director of a festival in India, which was primarily about women and gender sensitivity. And that's when we had the first data research done as part of a global research that the Gina Davis Institute had done.
Right.
But that was not India specific, it was larger. So then over the past few years, we tried to do it, and like Sung said, that we don't have the government agencies doing the research. So we look for funding. We don't have any government funding in India. There's no funding. So it's all private or by institutions or organizations. So 2 years ago, just pre-pandemic, the US consulate put out a competitive grant, and the data, they wanted to research the gender representation in our mainstream Hindi cinema, which is known as Bollywood, which everybody sees as just running around trees and singing songs, and it's always the man, the hero, stalking the girl, and then they think, oh, because he won her love, she's in love. But so there's this whole thing about stalking and all that. So I was part of that project, which we did the research, and I'm just going to show you glimpses of that research, because otherwise it's a very long presentation. So what they did was, and since then we've had 2 or 3 other very important research projects as well, which is also being done by Amazon Prime. And so people are beginning to understand that unless you have data, no one's going to listen to you. So,
Exactly.
So this particular, I'm just going to stand up and run you through this. I was the project lead on this to take it out to the industry, but it was done by one of our it was done by, sorry, this one? Okay. All right. Yeah, okay, sorry. So this was done by a very reputed, one of our most reputed institutes in India. It's called the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and they study. So they won the grant to do it, and then they studied it 2 years. So again, quick context. And I'll run you, I won't bore you with figures, because there's a QR code at the end of it, which you can scan and you can see the full report. But it was the first time that we've done a quantitative and a qualitative research. So what they did was, I don't know if all of you all heard, in 2012, we had a very, very, very bizarre rape case that caught the world fantasy, and this girl died. And after that, a lot of things changed because the government also took charge, So what they did was, and then the pandemic happened. So they've taken a small sample size of the box office hits in 2019, because they wanted to see what changed. And 10 films, so it's not a big sample study, but it's just that we finally have a study. And so that's the team. They're all academics, filmmakers. So it was very, very well done for 2 years. Why do we need to study? Because we are the largest film producing country in the world. And we have many regional films as well, but it's also worth, you can see the figures, we generate a lot of income, and a lot of people do see these. And of course, as I said again, the portrayal and visibility of women. And we'll come to the social situation that, we have a lot of illiteracy, so a lot of women don't even watch films. What did we study? As I said, it's a 25 box office, which is, which means that the films that won the largest amount of money, and women-centric films, which are about for by women. But what they did was they used manual frame by frame. So they studied about 2,000 characters, and on and off screen, including LGBTQI and disabilities. So what they did was they, looked at the distribution of the characters, which is how many cis female in a box office, but how many in a women-centric. So you'll see how the figures change. I won't go through the details, it's all on the website. But obviously, the heroes have a bigger role in India, the men. So you see that 72% of the characters are male, and only 26% are females, and 2% queer in the box office. So the figures are not very good. The disabilities is hardly there. We have lots of young characters. The women have to be fair, thin, and beautiful, and they don't show too many old women in lead characters. So then they also studied, the division of roles. So you have a lead character, you have a co-lead, you have a romantic co-lead, you have romantic interest. So it was very well done because they broke it up, Now they also studied how are these distributed in a commercial box office film. You'll obviously see that, there are more men and more women in a women-centric film. How many co-leads, how many romantics. So I'm just giving you an overview, but now I'm going to just work on 2-3 important slides. So what they studied, which I find very interesting, is that when you show women as employed, not just as, somebody who's looking after children or sitting at home, they did see that they show 42% women in employment or whatever, but these are always gender stereotyped. And even if she's dressed as a doctor, she'll have a cleavage showing or something, So, and the last sentence, which says that it's double-edged, is what we found is that if the woman is working, the family will say, oh, you're neglecting the family. The boss will say, but you're neglecting work. And the men are never asked these questions. But what they found, this to me is an interesting slide, because the women are always shown in very stereotypical work of care or medicine or whatever, and only 1 in 10 women are in decision-making roles. Whereas the men, you have 9 out of 10 in the decision-making roles, and they're shown in powerful military, police, politics, crime, they're shown. So, and none of the LGBTQI are in any decision-making roles. And of course, stereotype. And then we also studied the love, romance, intimacy, and they saw that it was the men who initiate, and how much of it is through consent. I'll come to that later. We have a lot of discussion on consent now. And of course, stalking. The violence and misogyny that they're talking about, we have films where is love equivalent to misogyny, stalking, or we had one where I was telling them, that there was this hero who slapped the girl and said, I'm allowed to slap you because I love you and you're my property. So I mean, are you allowed to do that? So we have still things like that happening. Then many of you must be familiar with the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test is, a film is said to pass the Bechdel test if there is at least one scene where 2 named women characters talk to each other about something other than men. And so only 36% of the box office films pass that test, but the women-centric films 100% pass that test, So we're coming to the importance of script writing and the stories. So then we studied the sexist humor. This is a bit, obviously, related to the language and the I'm sure you have that in Spanish and Portuguese, but for example, it says, oh, don't behave like a woman. You say that to, or we always wear bangles. So it's like, bangles are associated with a woman. So, oh, are you wearing bangles? So a man is supposed to be effeminate like that. And then they've said male characters always have the sexist humor. Now this is very important. They studied the credits of the films. And they realized that in the box office films, there's only 4,000 approximately women and 26,000 men. So for every 1 woman in the crew, there's an equivalent of 6%. 6 men, sorry. And of course, the women have, women-centric films have better figures. Now, so obviously the women directors are far more inclusive when they have women. Now, we have various reasons for that. Now, this again was an interesting thing that came out, that what they found is that the women will be in the post-production, in the visual effects, because then they're not in a studio where there can be, sexual harassment, or they have late nights, or but in the women-centric, you find more women in the production, which is on set as well. So again, there were very interesting, things. And now this to me is like, wow. Because we'll come to the fact that we don't have enough skilling, we don't have enough mentorships, there are hardly any women. We say that, okay, we've got women cinematographers, editors, but look at the figures. It's 1% or 2%, Now, in the qualitative, what we did was we interviewed scriptwriters, we interviewed directors, we interviewed audiences. So that was very interesting. So, for example, I just gave 1 or 2 slides where the women are told that, oh, you can't make a war film. So, don't come to us with a war film, despite Hurt Locker having won something. And they don't find funding. A lot of the women had a problem saying, why do we have to say woman director? Why can't we just be director? You don't say male director. So we got a lot of responses. And then women are normally working with smaller budgets. They never get the big budgets. They get, smaller. It's difficult to get funding. Or they'll be told, why don't you get a male hero? Why don't you get this scene into it? Or, so their creativity gets affected. Now, one thing that I found very interesting one of the academic, researchers, what he did was he said we've never studied the audiences. So the producer who's giving the money will always say, oh, but that's what the audience wants. They want a sexy dance, so they want, more voyeuristic camera angles, right? You've got to tease the male audience. So they then studied the audience. They studied young media critics. They studied online critics who do trolling. They can destroy a film. They'll troll any of our stars. So there was a lot of interesting inputs that came out of that. It's all on the website, so anybody who's interested. And then, as you asked the question, what is it that we're suggesting? So obviously we need more diverse representation, but what we are really pitching, and when I go back, we're going to pitch to the Producers Guild to make it a law, is that we have to have what we call POSH committees, which is prevention of sexual harassment. So the law that they want to pass is that any production company or a production which has more than 10 people has to have a committee to prevent sexual harassment. So we have to have the internal complaints committee.
This is not a law yet, right?
No, it's not a law. It's a law in industry. So they've declared the film industry as an industry.
Okay.
We have unions, but it's not something that's you're fined if you don't have it.
Okay.
So that's because then that improves the safety, and we can have more women. And the last one is that obviously we need more education. We need more. What was found, and this was a study that the Gina Davis Institute has also done on worldwide cinema, is that the minute, and there's a documentary on that, is that if there is a woman in the writer's room, the character description immediately changes, because the men will not have the locker room jokes. Of course, we have some women who join the locker room jokes to be part of it, but they say that the female characters are far more rounded because, there's a woman giving the perspective, right? So we definitely need more women. We need more women as producers. And of course, we need the anti-sexual harassment, because in the Bollywood industry, the casting couch is a big problem. We do have a lot of stories on that. And so, of course, we don't even, for example, have enough clean toilets for women. So what do? Especially for the junior staff. We don't have enough mentorships and a lot of collectives. We have 2 big collectives, which I'll talk about. We do need more women and storytelling. And this is the QR code that we have for the website, which has detail on this. Should I play that video now or later? Play that. There's another report, so we can do that later. All right. So that's.
Thank you so much. I'm so impressed, really. I wish we could have this study. Data is so important. We've been fighting for the last 5 years in Brazil, and we're still fighting, but we didn't get really the numbers.
Yeah, there was actually a very interesting report that I just presented a week before I came here, which actually Google has partnered with the Gina Davis Institute, and they've partnered with the University of Southern California. They have the School of VII Engineering, and they're using artificial intelligence. And this is to study scripted television in India over a 5-year period. And in 48 hours, they could scan millions of faces,
This is
So,
amazing, yeah.
I didn't bring that slide because it was a bit technical. I presented it with Google. Right now, what they did, which was unique for us, is because India has, I don't know how many languages. We have hundreds of languages. So they managed to do it over 5 of our main languages. And they did gender, age, and skin tone in scripted television. And it was very interesting again. I can share the website. I think what Cora said is that we'll put all the information online, and y'all can, it's on the Gina Davis website. It's called SeeJane, SeeJane.org. So it's a very interesting study. I was fascinated. So using AI for that. Right.
Thank you so much, Hashmi. Okay, so as I told you before, this year I was attending a round table in Cannes, France, with a lot of different women and different cultures. And our conversation with other women's movements show that we have a lot in common in our actions and advances. In Mais Mulheres, our collective, For example, we were inspired by the actions of other collectives like 50-50. 50-50. And 50-50, they have a partnership with CNC, which is the agency in France. It's our Ancini. And it's really important, you know, what they were able to do after this partnership. So they got a lot of different effective policies, diversity policies. So what I would like to ask for both of you, starting with you, but for both of you, if you have any diversity policies in your countries.
Yes, at this point I think Korea, we have a really good system about supporting diversity, because for us, a government body doesn't support commercial films, because commercial films, we have a private finances, lots of finances from bank or constructive companies, or even like how do you say, snack company, they put money for culture sector because they know the value. But then what the government support during through the policy is more like independent films or more like low budget films, let's say. And during the year, Korean Film Council support around, I think, 40 films production part, and another 40 for like each section, like distribution and development as well. And through all the support program, we have incentives for women crews. For example, if you have a woman director, put 3 points more. If you have producer, 3 points more, something like that. So if you have a script like about the main woman character, put 1 point more, something like that. So we have that system from a couple of years, but obviously there are some people complain about like, how come we have to compete with the same level? How come we have to put more incentives for women professionals and characters? And then the association of the women workers, like in audiovisual industry, said the field is really unbalanced. So we have to make it a little bit more equal than now. Then we can compete there from other programs like without incentive. But at the moment, we really need to make it the balanced field for at least for film industry. So we started, COFIC started that program, the incentive programs. And also we have another system that if you like to make a film, if you go to the shooting, you have to participate a class of gender equality. Or we said gender sensitivity classes, something like that. So if you don't take that class, COFIC, the government don't give the money for support. So they like to prevent some like awkward situation or the bad situation, or sometimes people say misunderstanding situation that we like to prevent through the classes. So that's another system through the government, but the government, they cannot control everything, so they made they give these classes and educations to the association of the women directors and women, not just director, women filmmakers in audiovisual sector. So they run whole program, even not for filmmaking, but film festival crews also we have to take the class before film festival. And there are so many cases, if we ask something, they can make a special education for that situation. So in that sense, we have a good system. And also for Korean, actually, we have lots of like people from industry, they have lots of high educations. So mostly women's like graduated university, after university, etc., etc. So the education itself is not really problem for us, but more a sensitive issue is like same equal salary. So even though we have a lot of people and we know the problem, what is the problem, but we cannot change the money issues. And yeah, and about the diversity policy, what else? Korea, even though it's a small country, we divided lots of cities, and all the audiovisual sector is concentrated in Seoul. From 10 years ago, we tried to make politically try to make a Busan or like kind of symbol of the cinema city, but it's really hard actually. So the government want to decentralize the situation of the Seoul, so they give more. I guess Brazil have really good system of this part, so they give more support for another, not Seoul, another province, and also each film commission from the city, they have their own system for support for production, distribution, etc., etc. And this budget is from not just only from the city government, but also from the Ministry of the Culture.
Right. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know. It's the same in France. They have, education for exactly.
One more thing, the 50-50 policies, we try to make forced to make and adapt it in film festival after I was named as a programmer in Jeonju. Then we can see 95% of the staff is women.
Really?
But then executives, committees dominated by men. So at the 50-50 policy, they suggest committees, you have to be 50-50 as well, but it cannot be realized. We can make that in a year or 2 years. Okay. So what we talk with the Association of Women Workers, we will try to make more committees advisors, but not at the moment we can change directly.
Yeah, but it is interesting because in France, CNC has this program that I believe that is really important. That, for example, if you're gonna submit a project to the CNC, and if you prove that your production has at least 50%, you can get up to 20% more money. So it's interesting. Okay, what about you?
I don't think we have the policies in place right now, but we do have the National Film Development Corporation of India, and with our current government, there's a lot of encouragement now being given. And as you said, even the concentration in India, because we have two very distinct film industries, the South India, because the language is so different, and we have Bollywood, which is North, and then we have the smaller regional films. So they are now going statewise to encourage, and they're giving incentives, and yes, they are bringing in, it isn't there in place, but they are skilling more women. But just an interesting thing that happened in South India, because we have 4 major South Indian languages, and they do a lot of South Indian cinema. In fact, the Oscar-winning song that you guys might have seen, RRR, that was out of South India. So it's a very different kind of projection. In South India, there was an incident that happened with a very, very well-known actress who was sexually harassed by a very well-known hero. So the entire women collective came together. It's called Women in Cinema Collective. They formed the first formal collective. Now, what they've done is they've actually come out with a manual. They've come out with a book, a manual with all the policies in place. And in South, they have implemented quite a few of those, especially the prevention of sexual harassment. In the North, obviously, actually this study we are going to use, and the good news was that they allowed us to present this study at all the film festivals that across India. So we took it to all the major festivals, had workshops, had masterclasses. And the gender sensitivity, again, there isn't it isn't in the curriculum right now. It's getting introduced into some of the film schools because we believe that young content creators can at least now come with a better frame of mind. But just a quick aside is that I work on a very interesting film festival as the advisor and curator on that. It's a traveling film festival that we take only to colleges and universities about gender sensitivity. Mm-hmm. And after every film screening, we have a discussion on that, with the filmmakers in residence. And so I think we don't have any formal policy in place right now about the incentives for more women, but I think we'll get there because we're working with the Producers Guild, with the Screenwriters Association, with the Actors Association, using the studies, saying that look, because the Tata Institute is also partly government funded. So the fact that it was done by them, they're taking it quite seriously. So I hope we'll come to what you've achieved as well. So I hope we can achieve that.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So yeah, my next question was about mentorship, and we already said that here. So I would like, Fanny, the president of Sankant couldn't be here because she got sick, but she sent us this, but I cannot read this. It's too small. Can you help me? It's too small for me. I'm too old for that. It's impossible, even with my glasses. I tried. So she went to let us know a little bit about the mentorship, because she told me that this is the most important program that they have there.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be funny for now. To open up our industry to diversity in work, to improve the accessibility of our jobs for young people who do not benefit from any network, we are currently setting up a vast mentoring program with regular sessions every trimester. We are thus creating a meeting place between young people with the most diverse socioeconomic, geographical and ethnic profiles who wish to work in the cinema or audiovisual sector, and voluntary professionals from all sectors of the industry, mainly from our network of members, 900 people. We make this project part of an empowerment process which aims to enhance women in their professional development. Numerous in professional training, they encounter more difficulties than men at the start of their professional life and in the development of their careers. We are therefore careful to represent in this program a significant proportion of female profiles, especially in the professions still considered as more masculine. By being in contact with numerous structures working for equality throughout the country, our aim is to also deploy this project within regions by working hand in hand with actors of the field. That's what she said.
That's it. Because, it's important to say that our collective was really inspired by Sankant and the Me Too movement. And I'd like to know a little bit from both of you about, the policies to prevent sexual harassment. Because we start to get some policies in Brazil, but we're trying to get this, more solid. So could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think official level, there's that association I mentioned. They have not only education but also if you have any experience of harassment, or if you doubt if it is sexual harassment or not, you can go there and have a meeting with them, and they will protect you as a legal kind of representative. So they handle the situation instead of you, and they give some some sources where you can get some advices from medical or law, or the stages, and other things. I guess in private level, I try to not to make our staff alone with other executives or committees. That's what I'm trying. And if we have some situation, I make a private meeting, ask them if they like to make announcement officially, complain or not, and if they want to. Usually they don't want to because they don't have power and they fear to lose their job. So in that sense, I talk with the festival director directly about not mentioning the name but the situation itself. So that's what I'm doing in my private level. And then I try to make this case as an educational manual to the association. So Yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah.
Because one of the problems that we have in Brazil is, even if we are able now to prevent and avoid a little bit more, but once that did happen, nothing happens. I mean, what is the consequences? Nothing. And I do like, this is the problem. So,
no, when the Me Too movement was really, I would say, at the climax, we did have a lot of that coming out in our industry. A lot of people actually started with an actress speaking out, again against another actor. So that's when it got serious, and the press picked it up, and then that's when our associations, the Actors Association, the Writers Association, and the Producers Guild, they took it very seriously. And those people haven't got work, they were arrested, or they had to, So I would say that a lot of that has now calmed down, and people are very conscious, and a lot of policies are being put in place. I just wanted to add that a lot of difference is happening now in the streaming platforms, because a lot of content is being created on the streaming platforms, and we have lots of channels. Of course, Amazon and Netflix lead, but we have a lot of local channels. And the good news is that most of those channels are headed by women. And there's another study that was done, exactly what you were talking about, as to how many women are heads of departments. So what happens normally, the story we used to hear was that if there is a complaint, the woman will say, or the man will say, oh, hush it, don't talk about it. But now, because there are women in charge, so I just have a 1-minute video where also what they're talking about the other research, which I'm not presenting, because again, I think you all should see it online. But this was, again, led by Amazon Prime in India. And it's really about how we also need to build the male allies. We have to bring the men into the conversations. So this was a roundtable. It's just an Insta reel, actually, because the presentation's too long. It's there's an actress, there's a writer, there's 2 male directors, there's a female director, there's another film critic. So I just wanted to tell you all who that is. And and the parity, there's one sentence that one of the male directors says that he's referring to a film in which our lead actress didn't get the lead role, but it's all about this man. So he says, why can't she get the lead role? Because it's made the kind of money we've never seen, Okay. So we're just going to play that. It's just a 1-minute video, just to give you an example. Yeah, so we can just play that.
There is a huge section that is still very patriarchal, where a male opinion also matters a lot more than a woman's opinion. And I've seen that around. So it happens. It's a mentality. While there were films which were always written for, men in lead, response to that can't always be now women in lead. There need to be characters who are men, who are sensitive.
There's so many more jobs out there, and the fact that those jobs are not gender specific. I think we need to work towards educating people on that, getting more people to be able to get trained on those jobs.
When we don't have enough women behind the camera, it is going to reflect in what is being made, and there is a direct connection.
Why can't Deepika be the lead on Pathaan? Why? Why not? Why can't it be a film about a woman? Why not? And I think studios especially and producers need to start pushing that.
We also need strong lead allies, right?
Yeah, of course.
We need strong, sensitive, creators who are writing incredible fonts, hiring women, and then we'd not have that problem. Then we won't seem like, oh, what's going to happen to women in theatres? I'm not inclusive for people because it's a charitable thing to do. I'm inclusive because it makes my work stronger.
So that was just a glimpse. It's a long study, which again, it's called O Womania. We'll again put that out there. And it studied trailers, it studied HODs, it studied scripted television, it studied a lot of things. So again, it came out with the fact that we need more skilling, we need male allies. The last lady wearing the sari is the head of Amazon Prime. So, she greenlit this. So I think we still have to put the policies as a law. We only have the POSH law, which is the prevention of sexual harassment. Because the film industry has been declared an industry. So we can have complaints.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. Great video. Yeah, we should have men in
Yeah,
our
I think
discussion,
male
of course.
and I think the fact that we're talking about it is the biggest
Yeah.
move forward. That at
Exactly.
least we're having conversations about it. You know.
Yeah, and we as a collective, we are trying to get closer to Oncini and to get a partnership like, you know, CNC and 50/50. And we had some results already, you know, results such as diversity policy in public notice and some results like that. So what about, are you trying to get some partnership with agencies or government to get laws and, you know, to improve women participations and sexual harassment policies?
I think in Korea we have lots of systems, that's good, but the thing is, like, even though you have a system, it doesn't mean it's reality.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in Korea, we have like developed lots of laws and etc. But something happens. Still, we have a conservative culture, so it doesn't really follow the reality of the level of the law sometimes. And sometimes, like the committees, like when the 50/50 say like we need committee network because they use their friends for work. It's not easy to change suddenly in 5 years or 10 years. So we need, I guess it takes time.
Yeah, it's still fighting, right?
Right. Yeah, I think we have the same. We have a couple of informal and formal collectives too, with the women, and I think we have some of our leading actresses as part of the 50/50 in Cannes as well. So I think the international conversations are all like the Gina Davis Institute, or now there's a big conference happening with the Unstereotype Alliance. They are also doing some. So I think the global conversation is making people, you know, sort of understand that we need it in our country as well. So
Okay.
I think it's like bringing yoga back from the West. It's because Jane Fonda did yoga, so the Indians do yoga now. You know? So it's a bit, you know, we have to learn. So yes, I don't know if any questions.
Yeah, you know, we still having just 7 more minutes, so I'd like to open a little bit for some questions if someone has. Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Marcela, I'm from Brazil. First, I think your work is amazing, but we still have a long path to equality. So my question is, with all that work, do you see any changes in the films that are made by men, like in the history itself?
Film made by men.
Yeah.
I think I can give an example in Korea. I think Netflix, there is a really famous Korean film called Gil Boksun. Like the lead actress is the awarded from Cannes with the Secret Sunshine, Chun Do-yeon. She acted amazingly, actions and everything. It's directed by men, using the woman narrative, everything more like actresses participated, etc. But still we complain, even though it's successful, even though the lead actress is amazing, but still just changing the character to woman, is that enough? But then we recognize, like, these days I think the industry, especially in South Korea, people think what is fresh? What is the fresh contents? What is fresh films or series? And then people think, okay, let's change the character from male to female. And then itself already fresh for them. Always like male gangsters, mafias or lawyers win the game, but then women win something, shows already give some power and fresh. But then is it enough for women audience, especially for young audience in South Korea? They're really active, and they're only targets for cinema actually. they're the only ones who buy the tickets to go to the cinema. So all the sales companies and distributors, they cannot ignore them. So they make more develop more scripts about the young generation, young women, what they like, what they want. So first step, it could be change only the role from male to female, but then if you bring female character, you can't just go out the same as the story before, because you have to think about their feelings, what they deal with, what they take care about. So it could be changed a little bit, I guess. But still, there are some issues, but we have another examples as well. Yeah.
We do see quite a positive change in Bollywood because we have a very popular male director. His name is Karan Johar. He made all the films about marriage and the big Bollywood wedding, and he's recently made 2 films where, yes, he's of course giving the woman importance, but he's also given the male masculinity stereotypes a change. For example, as I said, they say don't act like a woman. Now, a man dancing in a classical dance is considered very effeminate. But he's shown this really, the name of the film is Rocky or Rani. Rocky is the guy and Rani means queen. But the male, how he transforms from a stereotypical male to becoming very sensitive and breaking his own masculine stereotypes. So there is a lot of, I would say, change with women men. And the 2 directors you saw here on this film, they're very, very well-known directors, and they are making a lot of change. And I would say the main change is happening on OTT now, streaming platforms. We call it OTT. We're seeing a lot of that happening. So I think there's a lot of positive change coming about.
Hello, I'm a realizator, and sometimes I'm an evaluator of projects. And for example, my last experience in Colombia was evaluating some materials, scripts, and at the end, when they were anonymous, they would not reveal their identities, and then at the end, because of the law of these circumstances, this contest, this founding, they had to be yes or yes 5 of the projects by women. But the point was that me as an evaluator and the group decided that 7 of them were better, and they were made by men. But the female characters were much better. So these kind of dilemmas. And really I think that at the end, it is for kids, also it is the corner of the corner of the corner, female characters, kids, by men better than the ones that were designed by women. So in this kind of dilemma, when the quota is better to say, well, no, because it is very difficult to find good material. So it was a shame. We had to put the women, but it was contraceptive. You understand what I mean?
That's exactly what I mean.
Which is a dilemma. She mentioned something about that, because what to do? Really, the female were better.
That's what both the directors, which is why I thought this was an interesting video even for me, is that the female who speaks in the end, she's actually doing a film on Archies, the comic, but Indianized version. And she says exactly that I'm going to take who's better for the job, because I have a lot of money riding on it. Which then brings us to the fact that we need to skill more women, mentor more women, to become good at what they're doing and be equal, so then we're not even discussing whether it's a man or woman, we're talking about a cinematographer or an editor.
Yeah, but at a concrete situation, because to me it was a moral issue, I could not sleep more or less because of that. And I say, what to do, and what could you do?
Yeah.
In particular situation, would you keep the quota no matter what, because we have to push women, or you would respect the quality of the content objectively?
Yes, I think that's what the conversation is about. The second director, he said that we need to skill more women and stop the gender conversation.
I'm sorry, but we have to stop right now.
That's one question.
Yeah, there was one last question, but we ran out of time and we cannot delay the other panel. So I don't know who was the person who had a question. Is it okay if you ask them directly? Because we have to.
It's just a comment.
Okay. Okay. I know, because I
Just very 2 minutes.
I'll wrap it up in 1 minute. I just want to... Hi, my name is Junia. I'm from Brazil and I live in Germany. And I just want to comment that thank you so much for the work of studying gender. But for me, it's important also to have intersectional of women, because I know that not all women and transgender women and non-binary people are facing the same problems. We have intersectional, and I just want to say that we need to add also to the gender equality to have social background, status, indigenous people, black people, working class people that have no network to give training. It's amazing, but not only facing gender, but also to have this intersectional stuff. That's it. Yeah.
No, I think these studies both have included that. I just didn't want to get into all the detail because we have a lot of other issues. We have caste, we have indigenous, we have so many other issues. So they are looking at all that. It would have been too much information, but it's all there on the two websites. It's very detailed, the studies. So do take a look at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi.